Hello and namaste, guys. I am Dr. Anushruti and I am back with yet another blockbuster episode. Today on board, we have Dr. Sophia Veiras, who is working really hard to empower women to shatter limits and break barriers through lifting weights. She is an educator and also a coach. Dr. Sophia is joining directly live from USA. Hello, Dr. Sophia. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Anushruti. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm happy to be on and get some nice conversation going about strength training for women.
Even I am looking forward to it. And all my dear listeners and viewers from various parts of the world, get ready to have something on strength training. Starting directly from the very first question. What are the basic principles of strength training?
I would say, well, in general, you get better at what you do. So specificity, choosing movements that you particularly want to get better at, starting where you are, and then progressively overloading things so that ultimately, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So we want to be appropriately challenged so that we can make progress in the direction of our goals. With that being probably the most important principle of strength training, what is the individual's goals in front of you, and trying to create a program to get them to set goals.
So, challenge is something a very essential part of strength training.
Definitely. That's, I think, actually where maybe people sometimes struggle the most, particularly as they're getting started, to make sure that it is
So,
challenging them.
is it all about challenging your own self? I mean, I summed up it correctly. So all my listeners do not confuse it by getting challenges from your friends. It is actually challenging your own self to do it better.
Definitely. And it's challenging you in multiple ways. It's challenging you mentally, physically, emotionally to do more than you think you're capable of. And, that's probably my favorite part of strength training is watching people in that development of realizing I can do more than this.
Correct. Dr. Sophia, we went through your profile and we've seen how much you are into women weightlifting. You are empowering them through lifting weights. My question arises, which I feel that every other women and most of their men in the family feel the same. Does strength training makes their body frame in a way that of a man, or does it make them bulky? Does it make them, too much muscular? What is it? I do hope it's just a myth.
Yes, that's probably the biggest myth that I get asked about when people want to get started with strength training. It is very difficult for women to get big because we don't necessarily have the hormones to develop that level of, I think, bigness that people are maybe conceiving in their head. But in time, you will put on muscle mass in the best of ways. That's why we're doing this. So I don't think you should fear necessarily putting on more muscle mass. But it is very hard to develop a quantity that's like a man because they have different hormones than we do.
Okay, so with the help of diet, can someone actually have a good strength training program? I mean, is diet a core part of strength training or is it all about lifting weights?
So strength training is holistic, you need to support it definitely with good nutrition and a good diet. But recovery overall is incredibly important, from making sure you're drinking enough water, making sure you're getting the sleep that you need to recover from the activities that you're doing. So all of it put together is what helps facilitate that muscle building process.
Okay, in India, I don't know, have you ever been to India?
I have not, but I would love to one day.
You should definitely come. India is a very nice country to visit. But let me tell you a fact. In India, we have a lot of bodybuilders and people are so particular about their gym. Like they're very particular about their gym session and weightlifting. And we do have a lot of women here going into the gym training programs and they have actually, set a milestone in their life for all of us inspiring women out there. But Indians have one quality of eating. We Indians are very high on butter, curd, and we call it like lassi over here. So all these dietary items, we can say like milk products especially, cheese and everything. So one who's eating cheese, consuming butter And we do have, parathas over here where butter actually, this thick butter is over on the paratha and eating all that thing. Do you feel that kind of a person, a basic Indian version, I'm asking, can actually attain strength training?
Yes, you'd be surprised actually how much, particularly powerlifters, eat. Not encouraging anyone here to necessarily be slapping tons of butter on everything, but ultimately calories in and calories out is what you're looking for with energy balance.
You
But you
know
need
why I asked
calories here
this?
too. Yeah,
Sorry, you know why I asked this? The question is basically because every other person, is actually getting flattered with all that videos of lifting weights of women and men out there. But what they assume is if you gotta have this body, that perfect body figure, muscular body, toned muscles, everything, you gotta stop eating. I mean, I have seen a lot of people who actually have cut on their food. So this was my question for you. Like, eating is a good thing in strength training.
definitely. I think I may surprise people when I mention that I try to eat over 3,000 calories a day. And I'm a 145-pound female, so I'm not particularly huge here. And it's honestly hard to gain weight. Like I have to purposely eat more, to the point that I almost eat as much as my boyfriend does. But so I hope that women hear this message and they're like, oh, I can eat more food. And yes, you're not going to get bigger because it's hard to get big. So you need to eat, but that being said, you do want to fuel yourself appropriately. So I love butter too. I come from the Spanish culture and we're the same. We love putting butter on all the things. I still indulge in my butter, but I try to maybe go for fats from things like nuts, to just help get those things in there too, because you do want to be smart still about where those calories are coming from.
Absolutely, I agree with you totally. Also, one more thing that comes to my mind is with weightlifting, we have seen a lot of weightlifting. We do have a lot of women here in my audience who are suffering from PCOD and PCOS. So you know how quite, this problem is spreading all over the country, especially in India, and every other woman is actually suffering from PCOD, either minute level or maximum level. So, can they have a strength training program? And if yes, what should they focus on? What should be their long term and short term goals?
Definitely. So I specifically focus on maybe the unmet needs of the female barbell athlete, and you do tend to see these things more commonly. I think any woman at any level can strength train. In general, you have to find the right entry point for you. So you don't want to start off with more than you can handle. Start low, make sure you can recover from things well. It's not necessarily irritating anything. And this goes for, aside from PCOS, any things that people may be dealing with. Find the entry point and then work to build from there.
Okay. So, Dr. Sophia, now jumping to the segment I know my audience is waiting for. All my listeners and viewers are actually really eagerly waiting for this question, and that is answering the questions of my followers and viewers. So, I do have a lot of questions in my phone, which my followers,
Wow,
viewers, and
love it.
listeners have sent for Dr. Sophia. So, Dr. Sophia, are you
Yes,
ready
love
to
it.
answer them?
I am.
Okay, let's begin with the very first question, which comes from Karishma from New Delhi. Okay, New Delhi is the capital of India and is a very
Awesome.
beautiful place. You should visit it. So she asks, hi, Dr. Anushruti. Hello, Karishma. How are you? Hi, Dr. Sophia. Greetings from India. Is strength training all about weightlifting? Why can't I have a home workout plan which does not include lifting too much weight?
Definitely. So you don't necessarily need barbells and huge weights. I have had some clients with things like kettlebells, body weight works well. That being said, I think sometimes body weight can become a little limiting. So I love body weight exercises. They may be appropriately challenging for some people, but kind of like I mentioned, the main principle is if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So if you're finding that body weight squats are too easy, pick up any load. It doesn't have to be a weight, like, especially during the pandemic, gallons of milk, anything you can find to just pick up and put down to the point that you elicit some challenge so that you can get that appropriate response you're looking for.
Cool. Karishma, I hope your question is answered. Moving ahead, we have Saurabh Shetty from Tamil Nadu, and he asks, hi, Dr. Sophia, how are you? Is strength training No, I'm an aspiring physio. Is it my part of work about strength training? Do I have to teach strength training as a part of my physiotherapeutic work, or do I have to learn a different course for this?
100%. You should be integrating strength training into rehab at all levels. So I've gotten young kids to start strength training. I pushed it in 90-year-olds as well. It's made a tremendous difference in their rehab, their ability to do their daily activities at home and integrate things. For example, returning back to performance. This is what I'm most passionate about is teaching fitness and rehab providers how to kind of bridge that gap. But yes, incorporating weights into rehab makes a huge difference there.
Absolutely. Saurabh, I hope you are good to go with your answer. And then we have Riya Shukla from Himachal Pradesh. She asks, hello, Dr. Sophia, how are you? I hope you're fine. We live in a cold location, so whenever my grandparents wake up, it takes a lot of time to them to get back into action. Their body is always stiffened and tight. What should I do for them? So, what should
Yes.
Ria should do for them?
This is a great question. It's funny. So I live in the northeast of the US where it's pretty cold right now, actually. It snows sometimes here. We have this term for snowbirds, people that love leaving during the winter. They go down to Florida generally, and then they come back up when the seasons get weather or get better. That's not necessarily the normal routine for people. That being said, motion is lotion. So the best way to get better at moving is to practice moving. Granted, sometimes people wake up stiffer in the morning, so you can take a few gentle movements before even getting out of bed. If they want some nice, a little stretch routine, and then get the day going, because that'll help just kind of bridge that gap from being stationary and sleep to hitting the ground running, ready to go. So get some light movements going and then integrate some bigger movements as they can tolerate it.
So, Ria, take care of your grandparents and listen what just Dr. Sophia told. Next question from my follower is Rahul Gupta from Jammu. He says, I do lift weights. What are some basic prevention measures I should keep in mind while lifting weights? And if somehow I get injured, what should be my first aid to do?
Definitely. Oh, this is such a great question. So I'm glad it was asked. I would say the biggest thing for mitigating the risk for injuries with strength training come first and foremost, selecting appropriate loads. So if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, yes, but you don't want that challenge to be significantly more than what you're capable of. So work within your realms of what you're capable of first and foremost. I think the low-hanging fruit doesn't get talked about enough. The drinking water, sleeping, eating, making sure you're facilitating your gym routine with the appropriate energy to manage it. Injuries happen even when doing all of these things perfectly, because sometimes it may be related to something else. For example, if you have a very physical labor related job, and then maybe it was a particularly hard day at work and you're exhausted and you're going into the gym and maybe it's a hard workout routine. Step one, adjust that routine ideally so you don't get hurt. But let's say you busted through anyway, a tweak happens, then listen to your body. So ideally move as much as you can. Let's say maybe I tweaked my low back and my back can't tolerate much. That's okay. My arms can still work. My legs can still work. I'm going to do whatever I can still. And then maybe just find what I can tolerate for my back. So I find an entry point. I work to progress the movement from there, drop the load to what I can handle with no pain or minimal pain. And then as things get better, rework back up. Where let's say in the case of low back pain, prognosis is good. Lots of the time in 6 weeks, it's back to relatively normal without even doing much intervention. What you need to do is just allow your body that opportunity to heal, keep what you can moving, and also address why you got hurt in the first place. So was it too much load? Were you not sleeping? Make sure you address those factors too.
Totally agreeable. With this, I would like to tell all my viewers, listeners, followers, everyone who's watching and listening this video right now from various part of the world, if you would like to ask questions to my speakers, do give me your questions on all my social media handles. My team will go through it and the selected questions for selected physiotherapists over here will be asked. Moving back to my questions, Dr. Sophia. So,
Yeah.
the question is coming from a pregnant woman.
Yes.
Prenatal, postnatal exercises are so important for their pregnancy journey and for their life. So strength training program, like what are you gonna, suggest them a basic strength training program which all my prego women's right here can actually follow uh, to have their strength training, done.
Definitely. I love this, and this is another topic I'm particularly passionate about. Um, it really comes to their prior level of function. If you're taking someone who's already an elite athlete, they'll be able to strength train relatively heavily through most of their pregnancy, but you'll have to adapt movements as tolerated. So, for example, squatting, maybe they have to change their stance because now they have a stomach that they didn't have before to manage around. So they may have to change stances, they may have to change depth. But ideally, strength training the whole time. The level of which you're strength training really depends on the person. But ultimately, find what you can handle, listen to your body. Everyone's pregnancy is going to be totally different. So, this is where it does help to have maybe a coach in your corner that can be your sounding board to adapt things. In general, first trimester, you can keep things going relatively heavy ish. I may avoid some things in laying, or just not necessarily avoid it, but avoid prolonged laying time. But that, especially as they come later in the pregnancy, things like laying down benching may start to become uncomfortable. So you turn it into an incline press. But those are the big modifications I would make, is just adjust loads as necessary, change up the stances as you need to, avoid prolonged laying, particularly past like second, third trimester. And then again, coming back to the sleep, hydration, nutrition, it's even more important here. You're feeding too. So anything you were eating and training before, you can now eat more, which is very exciting. But yes, I've noticed better outcomes postpartum, where women who pretty much strength train the whole time out will see a faster return. The formal kind of clearance rate, at least in the US, is about 6 weeks postpartum. The doctor kind of is like, hey, now you can start going. But I will say you can start with very light things as much as early as the day of, at least like diaphragmatic breathing. We're not talking strength training here, but you can incorporate some pelvic floor work, breathing, light walking, and things like that up until you can do a little bit more at 6 weeks. And then again, you can do a little bit more with your arms and then just kind of get the ab section back in action based on the person here too, depending if there was a C-section, vaginal delivery. But that's considerations for the postpartum.
Totally. Here, I would also like to remind all my pregnant women that these exercises or the measure or plan suggested by Dr. Sophia is actually in particular to the general audience, general pregnant women out there. Do consult your personal physical therapist or coach for better experience. Last but not the least, Dr. Sophia, we have a lot of aspiring doctors, specifically physical therapists in my audience. This time is really hard for them. Like it is like a never ending process for them, and they're going to feel this is the most hard thing, the hardest possible thing ever existed on this planet for them. So we all have been, through this. So what are your token of words for them in the sense of motivation, aspiration, and everything? Like, what do you want to speak to them?
Yes, I would say that it's a lifelong learning process as long as you're in this. Realistically, the evidence is going to change in time and you need to stay on to it. So I'd say the best thing you can do is learn from everyone around you. Always ask questions. Don't be afraid to be maybe not the smartest person in the room. Like surround yourself with some of the best providers and learn. I would say, in addition to learning the hard skills that you focus on, the soft skills are equally, if not even more important. Communication skills, being able to have difficult conversations with people and show them that you're their ally in this journey, right? This is all a journey for all of us, whether it's the physical therapy journey, the journey of strength training, the journey of life. We're all just learning and trying to get better. So just go out there and learn from as many people as you can.
Yeah, you do have a lot of inspirational people like Dr. Sophia over here as well. Well, with this, I would like to thank you, Dr. Sophia, for taking out time from your schedule and speaking to us. I know this is going to be a very big hit because of everything you have said and so apt. And I believe all of my audience is going to relate with it and follow the basic steps you have told. Thank you so much, Dr. Sophia, for taking our time.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I had a great time. And anyone can reach out with any questions if they need to.
Likewise. With this is your reminder to straighten your back and have a good posture. Thank you so much, my dear audience, for viewing and listening to this video right here. Till then, take care. Goodbye.